Hi there, here's Christina from Changing Parenting. And I recently, in one of my videos where I was explaining how you can get your child to cooperate without using fear-based parenting, I got someone commenting saying, in my time, children would get a slap on the wrist and then they would learn not to do it again. And I want to address that because perhaps you have heard that a lot yourself. Perhaps I've heard that myself. So not only from random people on the internet, which of course I don't really try to convince them because it's like discussing politics or something. I find that it's too draining for me. Why would I try and convince someone who doesn't want to change, right? But I do have had these conversations a lot with my own family, with people that are close to me, with people I care about, because of course I want those people to understand why I'm parenting in a different way than maybe they were parented or they parent themselves, and perhaps even change the way they parent, because again, it's not that they are bad parents, it's just that they don't know how to do it differently. They didn't even know there was a problem in slapping on the wrist because that's the way they were raised. And so if you have been also already told, like, just give a slap on the wrist and they will behave, this video is for you so that you have arguments based on science, on research, not just me, not just my opinion. This is what science says, that you can actually talk with those people, again, people that matter to you, right? Don't try and enter into fights with strangers on the internet, because you need to protect your mental well-being. That's very important so that you can be the mom you want to be, right? So here is what research says about spanking. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a slap on the wrist. It doesn't matter if it's like, beating with a belt, or even just punishing and saying, go to your room and think about what you did. Because the spanking itself, the problem is not the physical pain. Of course, there are exceptions, right? When it's a really very bad physical pain, that's really, that children get marked and all that, and they can lead to PTSD and all those things, right? But I'm talking about like general things that people do, right? Like, beating with a belt, or slap on the wrist, or, pulling their ears, asking them to go stay alone, anything that is fear-based. What hurts the most is not the physical pain, but the psychological damage that inflicts, right? That feeling of like, I'm powerless here, this person is above me, I have to do what they say, and this constant fear of doing something that will upset the person because it will have consequences on us. And research shows, and this is interesting, research shows that the more fear-based parenting, it kind of like works less and less. And that's why with time, you need to punish more and more. You need to use more, stronger punishments for it to work. And that's because, the amount of fear that someone has kind of decreases. So like maybe you slap on the wrist when they are 3 years old and they are scared, right? But maybe when they are 5, a slap on the wrist is already like, okay, I'm so used to being scared of you that the slap on the wrist is not giving me the same amount of fear. So maybe then you need to punish and really be like, now you're going to stay alone here in the bedroom. And you feel like you find out that you will always be escalating. Also, I want to say that leading organizations, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the UNICEF, the American Psychological Association, all of them recommend zero punishment, right? Zero physical punishment, no matter how mild. This means that includes a slap on the wrist, no punishments. And I'm going to explain you what all the research says that supports this and why a slap on the wrist is not okay. So kids who are physically punished, they are more likely to become aggressive and hit others, show violent behavior. And this is because children learn by modeling. So they learn that when they upset you, and because again, when you're punishing a child, you're not teaching them that their behavior is wrong, you're teaching them that behavior upsets you. This is a very big difference, right? Because you're not teaching them why the behavior is wrong, what they should do instead, what they should do next time. You're not teaching anything. You're only teaching that when they upset you, they will get in trouble. And when they do this, they upset you. So it's not about learning why the behavior is bad. It's about learning the impact it has on you. People pleasing, all that, that's also another thing. But anyway, what happens is they learn that when they upset you, the way you deal with it is by hitting them. So when they are upset, the way they solve it is by hitting others, right? Unless they are so scared, because it kind of depends on the personality, that they kind of implode, and then they actually become more likely to become victims of bullying themselves. But studies show that it will definitely, in most cases, lead to aggression towards others or to mental problems, mental, anxiety, all that, right? And again, you become also more likely to become a victim of bullying. It damages your mental health. Studies show that spanking is more likely to lead to anxiety, depression, substance abuse, and personality disorders later in life. And again, this is because there are those people that will then implode. So there are those that explode, that will hit other kids. There are those that will implode and, have all these shameful feelings about themselves, anxiety, right? Because again, it's not about the behavior itself. It's about the fear that how they will affect others. Because I don't learn that, eating the cake that you just baked, that's bad and why it's bad. All I learn is that sometimes when I eat something that you baked, you punish me really bad. So I'm always in this anxiety, like, am I allowed to eat this? Am I allowed not? And I will carry this on also along my life, right? Every time someone does or says something that is triggering to me unconsciously, even though I know that person is not you, is not my mom who's doing that, I will still be like, did I do something wrong? Like the woman at the supermarket is having a bad day. She talks to me in a way that is not so nice. And immediately I'm like, did I do something to upset her? As if I was responsible for her, the way she acts. Children are not responsible for the way parents act, right? That the only thing that is responsible for that is the lack of emotional regulation skills on the part of the parents, right? They aren't able to self-regulate. They let their emotions run the show. Studies show that it harms the parent-child relationship because, again, children feel fear, shame, resentment instead of trust and connection. So they will be less likely. Studies show that children that are spanked are less likely to listen to their parents in the future. Why? Because what children learn is to hide things from you. They don't learn that the behavior is bad. They only learn that if you find out that they did that, they will be in even bigger trouble. So when they are in trouble, they will not come to you because for them, you finding out, even if that's not true, but for them in their brain, you finding out is even worse, right? And it just creates this disconnect where children just don't trust you to help them, where children just believe they have to deal with things by themselves. It does not teach them self-regulation. That's what studies also show, which means, again, it's linked to the other studies that show that children are more likely to have anxiety, depression, and all that because they don't know why the behavior is wrong. They actually believe that feeling those things, wanting those things is wrong and they must be awful people. And this is so bad for their mental well-being. It lowers empathy and moral development. So with some children, what happens is that, again, they are more focused on how it affects others than on the behavior itself. So they will still do the behavior as long as no one is watching, right? And also they become very concerned about what others are feeling, right? But in the sense of like the way I do it, what I do, how it will affect them. Like how can I do things in a way that I'm not harming, not upsetting anyone? And it's also associated with cognitive delays. So children, there are studies that show that it affects language development, academic performance. There are so many studies and I'm running out of time. If you want more, just let me know. And yeah, you can do this without punishment. You can do this. You can raise your child in a different way.